last year saw a major step towards international justice.
Omar al-Bashir shall be arrested to stand trial for crimes committed against millions of civilians in Darfur.
For the first time ever, a warrant was issued for the arrest of a sitting head of state by the International Criminal Court. To date, 111 states have signed up to the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, and there have been prosecutions for human rights abuses in 50 countries. The horrors of the past will be answered for.
Despite progress, we still have a very wide global justice gap. Too many perpetrators are getting away with some of the worst crimes known to humanity, and millions of people living in poverty and suffering other abuses do not have recourse to justice.
The most powerful governments have still not signed up to the International Criminal Court, shielding them from external pressure to address their own abuses. Detentions in Guantanamo by the US government were still ongoing, despite the promise that it would close, and no one's yet been made to answer for the abuses committed there. The Chinese government has responded to dissent and protest with unfair trials and death sentences. Although cloaked in secrecy, it is still the world's leading executioner.
Governments are responsible for the global justice gap by standing above the law and by playing power politics with justice. So, for example, when governments refuse to sign up to the International Criminal Court, like China, Russia, the United States of America, or Indonesia, they undermine the court and the chances for justice for many. At the same time, when governments shield their political allies, such as with Sri Lanka at the United Nations Human Rights Council, they also undermine justice. This is an attitude that has to change.
Millions of people, no different from you or I, risk falling through the global justice gap, where they suffer deprivation, torture, and violence.
Shooting them in the chest, shooting civilians, unarmed civilians in the chest, in the eye, in the head, I could have never imagined that.
Dr. Hejazi was caught in a street protest after the Iranian election last summer. He found himself next to Neda Aga Sultan when she was killed by police.
Unless some concrete steps are taken, this will go on for a while.
In Colombia, Brazil, Mexico, and other Latin American countries, security forces continued to be accused of carrying out hundreds of unlawful killings. Very few of the perpetrators were effectively investigated, let alone brought to justice. Governments are sidestepping justice. 300,000 Sri Lankans were trapped between the Tamil Tigers and the advancing Sri Lankan army in the final bloody phase of fighting. Despite a death toll of at least 7,000 civilians killed by both sides, the UN failed to conduct an investigation. Instead, power plays between its members gave way to a resolution written by the Sri Lankan government itself that actually complemented its own success against the LTTE.
It seems to me that it's in the interests of Israel and in the interest of Palestine, of Palestinians, that the truth be established.
The Goldstone report found that both Israel and Hamas committed war crimes, but states in the UN Security Council have helped to shield the perpetrators. Still, neither side has yet been brought to account. The continued Israeli blockade of Gaza is ostensibly designed to deter rocket firing into Israel by Palestinian armed groups. Instead, a year after the fighting ended, it hits hardest at the most vulnerable, the elderly, the sick, and the young. Across the globe, poverty is widening the justice gap. Millions are denied health, food, and housing, and more have been pushed through the gap by international food, energy, and economic crises.
Justice is not only about not being tortured or being free to express one's views without fearing reprisal. Justice is also being able to go to school, to have access to clean water, and to obtain a decent health care.
The law has two faces. It can punish, but it can also protect.
World leaders will be meeting in September to review the implementation of the Millennium Development Goals. These are objectives to reduce poverty, ensure access to education, proper maternal care, and so on. However, these objectives will not be achieved if they only remain political aspirations. These are about people's human rights, and they must be enforceable by law.
Right now, we are falling far short of meeting these goals.
We are dying because of lack of knowledge. We are dying because we are poor. We are dying because it looks as if there is no one that is hearing our stories.
Last year, over 350,000 women are estimated to have died in pregnancy or childbirth because their right to health was ignored. Across the world, the poor are denied a voice. Millions have been forced out of their homes and into greater poverty, seeking freedom from hunger or violence. People fled for their lives from war zones in Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Sri Lanka. Thousands of homes were pulled down in Nigeria, Egypt, and Colombia to make way for new developments, and more are at risk in Italy. No one asks the people who live there what they need. Without a voice, it is even harder to fight the racism and xenophobia that grow stronger with each financial crisis.
Vattene in tuo paese. Vattene in paese, ma gente stupida perché io sono nato qua, dove va? Capito? Dico, ma sono nato in Italia.
Their lives may be hidden from our national headlines, but mass abuse of economic, social, and cultural rights is still a human rights crisis. And it, too, must be fought with legal commitments, not paper promises.
In our quest for the elimination of the global justice gap, Amnesty International is today appealing to all governments, but particularly those governments that aspire to global leadership, such as the United States and China, to sign up to the International Criminal Court and to make sure that the Millennium Development Goals turn from political aspirations into legally enforceable rights. We want an end to oppression and an end to poverty, and this starts by recognizing that no one is above the law.